Good Erev Shabbos to our friends at the Westmount Shul. We would like to let you know that today's classes are sponsored by the Durbach family. And they're sponsored in honor of, in memory of Ian's parents' yortzites that are coming up or around this time. All the shurim should be in Aliyas Neshama for Shena Chana Bas Yosef Halevi and for Shlomo Ben Dov. We hope that all the learning that is learned today will be a great elevation for their soul. Amen. At the beginning of this week's Parsha, Parshas Va'era, the word Va'era means I appeared. And Hashem says, I appeared to Avram, to Yitzchak, and to Yaakov with the name Kel Shakai, but my name of Yud He Vav He did not become known to them. That's what the pasuk says. And Rashi comments on the pasuk. It does not say, I did not make my name known to them. Rather, it's my name did not become known to them. Meaning to say they did not recognize Hashem as saying my attribute of truth personified by my name Yud He Vav He, which implies my trustworthiness to fulfill my word. Because I made promises to them, but did not fulfill them in their lifetime. So that's what Hashem is, so to speak, rebuking Moshe and saying, I never let them, they never really experienced that full Yud He Vav He experience, yet they were very loyal. Rashi makes a similar comment in next week's Parsha when he tells Moshe to please speak into the ears of the people and ask them to borrow each person from his neighbor. And Rashi explains, why does Moshe have to say please? So Rashi brings, because that tzaddik Avram shouldn't have complaints. That Hashem, you told me at the Bris Bein Abasarim that you would enslave the Jews, they'd be oppressed, and then they'll grow out with a great wealth. And Moshe could criticize and say, well, you kept the part of the bargain of the oppression and suffering, but where's the great wealth? So Moshe, please tell them to borrow so that they will have this great wealth. And again, Rashi is troubling. Did the patriarchs have such little faith in Hashem that they needed proofs and reassurances that Hashem would fulfill his promises? So what is this idea of that Hashem did not make known to them? So what's the difference? And really, this is essentially discussing, again, another one of the critical differences between the book of Bereshis and the book of Shmos, which we have been discussing in various classes. And clearly the patriarchs had perfect faith that Hashem would fulfill his promises, that the Jews would leave Egypt, they'd come into Eretz Yisrael. But here's the point. We're starting off the Drush right at the point. But until one witnesses the fulfillment of a promise with their own eyes, even if you believe Hashem 100%, something is missing. One cannot sing until he's actually experienced redemption. The pasuk says unto him, Ashir el Hashem ki gomal alai. I sing to Hashem when he brings kindness to me. Meaning, when can a person sing to Hashem? When he does kindness to me. When one actually experiences a redemption, he can sing to Hashem. The Avos believed their children would be redeemed 100%. But in reality, they could not fully comprehend God's kindness until his promises began coming to fruition at the time of Moshe. You see, the period of the Avos was a period of potential. It was of promises. Moshe's time was a period of actualization of that potential. And this explains an interesting difference that you note. In the book of Shemos, we have an amazing song, the Song of the Sea. And in the Torah, in Sefer Bamidbar and in Sefer Dvarim, there's also songs. But there are no songs in the book of Bereshis. But in Moshe's time, there is. Remember, the Sea of Reeds, it says, even a maidservant by the sea saw what Yecheskel and other prophets could not see. Why is that? Why didn't the patriarchs ever sing? The answer is only when you experience the redemption are you able to sing about the actualization of Hashem's kindness. That's when it's Oz Yashir. It's interesting. The Abdarav, the Ohev Yisrael, asks why Yaakov Avinu never tried to kill Esav, his brother, the same way Moshe killed the Egyptian later on by using Hashem's name. We know that when Moshe saw the Egyptian beating up the Jew, he somehow knew mystically how to use the Yud-Hey Vav-Hey name, and he killed the Egyptian. So why didn't Yaakov just kill him? There's a lot of answers to that. But he says in Yaakov's time, Hashem's name was not fully revealed in Yaakov's time. Yaakov's time was one of promises, of potential, but not actualization. Yaakov Avinu never could fully comprehend Hashem's name and could not access its full power. That's what it means. The name of Yud-Hey Vav-Hey did not become known to them. The electing future, as it says in Tehillim, I trust in your kindness, in Hashem's promises for the future. Yes, David HaMelech, all tzaddikim trust Hashem's kindness. And the fulfillment of those promises occurred in later generation, and that later generation had the full recognition and revelation of the truth of Hashem's kindnesses. And that fulfills the other pasuk, Yismach Libi, my heart rejoices in your salvation. And that's how Ramban explains in his introduction to the book of Shmos. He says the book of Breshis is the story of the Avos, was the formation of their descendants, to hint and make known everything that would happen to them in the future. That was the formation period. When it was completed in Breshis, another book, Shmos, begins with the actualization of those hints. That's the words of the Ramban. Again, the Avos believed in Hashem's promises, and they believed, and Hashem even appeared to them with his name, but they never experienced the actualization of those promises in the physical world. They could not say, I sing to Hashem when he does kindness to me. No deficiency in them. As we know, there's a chazal that says, Eina doime shmiya l're'iyah. You can't compare hearing to seeing. There's a certain level of connection to reality that exists when you see something. Yeshayahu Hanavi reveals the purpose of the creation of Jewish people. I created this nation so that they will relate my praises. So our job is to recognize Hashem's kindness when we witness its actualization and to relate his praise. That's what the difference between Breshis and Shmos is. Breshis was a tremendous amount of emunah and a tremendous amount of recognition of everything that Hashem did and complete trust without any questions. But the others just could not do what was not humanly possible, to sing from a place of an experience that they did not have. What's the message for us? Well, this difference between the way the Avos and the way of their children exists today as well on many levels. The way of the Avos is revealed with respect to nowadays children and young adults. Children and young adults, their life filled with promise for the future. Their time is the period of formation, when they clarify their faith and work towards what they can achieve and attain in the future. They daven, they learn, they work on their midos, but everything remains in a state of hope and expectation. When am I going to get to that realization? And they really don't get to enjoy the sweetness of a full Jewish life, which takes time to attain. It's not so easy. There's amazing concepts of the geschmack of learning, the geschmack of a fiery davening, the geschmack of being a loyal, dedicated ambassador of the Almighty, where we do things that make a Kiddush Hashem. It's very hard. It's very hard for children. It's doubly hard during the COVID, because the learning cannot be, when you're doing it by Zoom, cannot be as effective, which requires even greater faith for them. And their parents, what I'm finding a lot during this COVID is that most people view COVID from their very narrow perspective of what does it mean to them only, which is understandable. But we have to realize it's not just about me, it's what other people are feeling. And to be sensitive to what other people are going through. Some people, the more mature adults, they're very happy to be in their homes. They could take it. There's certain people with those personalities. But you have to know there's a lot who aren't. And there's a lot that this is killing them being in their homes. Are we sensitive enough to that? That what they're going through? How can two adults who are in their 60s relate to young families who have 6, 7 children in their homes and they can't go out of the house? And the parents can't run away from their kids. And they're not allowed to abuse their kids. And the kids don't have enough outlets. And the government's saying they can't go to school. I'm not criticizing, I'm not anything, but are you sensitive to their pain? And realize what they're going through. They're going through an avos existence. And we need to tell these parents, you're in this time of formulation, of promises. Parents raise kids, and it is not a picnic. Children are not easy to raise, but they're living with a hope and a promise that one day they'll be amazing ambassadors. So for those young couples who are listening, I remember what it was like under much better times. And in a world that was more civilized with less Yetzer Haras 40 and 30 years ago. What you must contend with is extremely difficult. Teenagers in the house. It's not easy. Make sure there's kosher access to the outside world. And Hashem has not yet revealed himself. It's the same way with the earlier generations. Our parents, my parents, our grandparents lived through the valley, the gates Almaves, the valley of the shadow of death. When my mother was standing in the lines in the concentration camp and my father is hiding somewhere in the woods in Russia, all they had was hope for the future. And they were unable to sing to Hashem, even if they believed that everything would turn out best. Before they were able to witness the actualization of their hopes, maybe to watch their children, me and my sisters, and to watch their grandchildren. They weren't zocha to watch great-grandchildren. They were zocha to see the learning of Torah and growing up in the right way. It wasn't easy for them. You could appreciate what Eretz Yisrael meant for them. Then they could sink. We're in that period of time now during the COVID. We're in that period of Hashem obviously is looking for something to develop before the salvation happens. I had the opportunity for the first time in these last 10 months to officiate at a COVID funeral. And we give condolences to the Daniels family as we paid last respects to her mother, Robin's mother. It was definitely an unusual funeral. unusual funeral where there could only be 10 people aside from the staff, and 10 people known to say Kaddish. It was on Rosh Chodesh. So all the parts that accompany a funeral, the Kel Moli Rachamim, the 7 stops, all were not done on Rosh Chodesh. It was really living like the Avos, as the patriarchs. This isn't the way funerals are supposed to be, you would think. And yet, we mentioned about Rabin's mother, who was a young child in England during World War II, and how she remembered the bombings. Can you imagine a young child with bombings, not knowing if you're going to die the next minute? It was a time of hope. It was a time of hope. And it's interesting that she left this world also not anything as bad as that. As bad as COVID, it isn't like being bombed. But she saw some fruition. There were Jewish grandchildren at her grave. So that's what it's about. It's about being able to witness that actualization. And although a funeral is a sad time, but I'm sure this woman, Corinne, was waiting in the bomb shelters, believing in Hashem, but the praises could not be made until she would actually see those grandchildren. Anyway, let me tell you a story about Rav Hutner to finish this off. Rav Hutner was the great Rosh Hashiva of Chaim Berlin in New York. And if I'm not mistaken, he passed away in 1979. If I'm not mistaken. Great Rosh Hashiva, who was on the Moetzes Gedolei HaTorah. And Rav Hutner, you may or may not know, went through a very difficult time during the Entebbe flight that was hijacked by terrorists in 1970 and taken to Jordan. We all know about that Entebbe. It's 50 years, can you imagine? 50 years since Entebbe. And although the terrorists did not know that he was a famous rabbi, he was on a plane, but they could just see he looked like one. So they singled him out for quote unquote special treatment, making that time extremely difficult and frightening. And the truth is, Rav Hutner, as great as he wasn't the same man afterwards. Well, when he was finally released, he said that only then did he understand what David HaMelech meant when he wrote in Tehillim, Perek Kuf Mem Beis, Pasuk Ches. I'll say it in English. Now he understood what David HaMelech said, take my soul from out of its bondage in order to give thanks to your name. In me, my salvation, the righteous will crown you, Hashem, because of the kindness you did to me. Only then did he understand. At first, Rav Hutner thought when he was in the plane that perhaps a person should be able to give thanks to Hashem even before he's released from his troubles, because the truth is, as the Gemara in Brachos says, that everything Hashem does, he does for the good. So whatever it is, you got to praise Hashem because it has to be good. And I'm sure he was on the plane, even though the threat of death was looming. He understood Hashem, everything is for the best, and there's what to sing God's praises because he knows what he's doing. That's a high level. I don't know if me or you could be there. And I'm sure he did it. But when the harrowing experience was over and he was saved, he said, he realized that one cannot fully comprehend Hashem's kindness until he is actually redeemed from danger. He says one can only praise after he is released from the bondage. And why did Rav Hutner want to be saved from that situation? So that he could give thanks to Hashem. Because only then could he say, as David HaMelech said, in me, meaning in my salvation, the righteous will crown you, Hashem, because of the kindness you do to me. And that's the fulfillment of our purpose that the Navi says. Hashem says, I formed this nation and they will relate my praises. So Rabbi Isai, It's already 10 months. We're in a second lockdown. There's hope. There's hope in the vaccine, Mirz Hashem. And it should be a great refuah that Hashem is giving. We already were in one exile. We already were locked down once. And it was released. And maybe some of us appreciated, maybe some of us didn't. But we're locked down now in the parshias of the Exodus of Egypt. We have to realize that whatever's happening in a physical way, there's happening in a spiritual way. We are physically locked down, and there has to be a certain spiritual locking down that exists as well. So what do we daven for this Shabbos as we started Rosh Chodesh Shabbat? We daven Him, please stop the virus. Do it in the most miraculous way. And that we should have the presence of mind to know that you're the ones who saved us. And I feel, and where will be the greatest praise will come from. There are different people with different feelings. I certainly understand that. There's certain people who have, I don't want to be misunderstood, have a certain cavalier attitude towards this corona. They're not fearful people. I'm not saying they're reckless, but they're not fearful. And they really view this as just more of a pain in the neck than anything else. Right, you're wrong. That's unimportant. And there's on the other pendulum are those who are mamish afraid for their lives. And I'm not deciding who's got the better. It's not a question of better or worse. It's just the way you are, the way circumstances are, your age, your condition, whatever it is. And we have to always be mindful that there's so many people in this world who are not like us, who are not reacting to the corona the same way. And that doesn't mean it's a right or a wrong way. That's the way life is. But there are some people who are almost, as they say, scared of your shadow, afraid to touch a table. It's going to kill them. Some people that even a VIP room is not good enough. By the way, we sent out a review of the safety measures. I hope you read it. I hope it doesn't get lost in the bulletin. There are people like that, and that's fine. We love them all. But I can't say to those that are very fearful, and many of you may feel, I wish I wasn't so fearful. But in a way, I'm a little jealous of you. You know why? Because you'll be the ones more than anyone else who can say, Ashir Hashem ki gamal olai. I sing my praises to Hashem because of the kindness you did to me. Because you won't have to experience that fear anymore. We all are understanding, and Hashem is telling this to Moshe. I understand what the patriarchs were, that they had great promises, didn't come true, but they had this full belief, but they could not praise as much. There will be those that when this virus leaves, they'll be able to make the most amazing praises. And we all need each other. I've been saying this all the time, and I hope it's resonating. Those who are at home, you need the poor in the shul. And you should be encouraging them, sending them words of encouragement and appreciation. And those who are in shul need to recognize the plight of those who are not in shul, for better or for worse, and to tell them that we're thinking about you. That's why the shul does all this virtual Malava Malchus, so we have a chance to be together, to send things to homes. And when and now those that are home, they're counting on the people in shul to be on the front lines. This is the front lines. The front lines of spirituality. And not like you're seeing on the news that children can pray in their homes. This is the front lines. You know, there was an article in one of the CTV or whatever that the government didn't make it clear what is essential. And some people said, you know what? I'm the breadwinner in my home. I have an essential service for my family because otherwise we starve. I'm not here to tell you how to define essential, but I'm certainly entitled to define it for myself, am I not? Do I at least have the freedom to say that? Or will I be canceled for that too? I feel I'm an essential service. I know I'm not going to get a vaccine any earlier, and I don't need it. But the people in the shul are the essential service of the Westmount Shul right now. And people should appreciate it. And if you want to be a frontline worker, the door is open and the shul is comfortable. But when this ends, the essential service will be those who move in at home. Because you will be the only ones to praise Hashem much more than those who have not felt this deathly threat as much. And we'll be counting on you to Ashir al Hashem ki gomal Eloi. And that's called teamwork. And I'm proud of our shul that we have this kind of teamwork. So may we soon merit to see the actualization of all of Hashem's promises to us. Not only this corona, but really what we're really waiting for. We're waiting for, as we read, the fifth expression of redemption, that Hashem is going to bring us into the land of Eretz Yisrael the way it was meant to be, and that he will give us the land of Eretz Yisrael forever. We're hanging in. Hashem, we're waiting. It's hard. There's a lot of anti-Semitism. But wait for that day where the Shem Hashem will come out, and what it's all about is the singing to Hashem. Let's all give our hopes and prayers to be able to sing Hashem. Ashir al Hashem ki gomal Eloi. Amen. Thank you for listening. Have a wonderful Erev Shabbos.